Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full
Time
Time
to
to
Travel
Travel
Time.
We almost did it together.
We are very excited today because we actually have guests on our show for the first time.
Woohoo.
And I can tell you that when Kim and I were planning on bringing in guests, we knew immediately who our first guests were going to be. And they are our good friends, Cory and Jesse.
Hi, guys.
Yay.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for saying yes.
Well, we were there at the beginning when you're like, we want to do this. What do you think? And we're like, oh, hell yeah. Let's
Count
go.
us in.
Absolutely.
yeah.
So, just a little bit about Cory and Jesse. Cory has actually been a mentor of mine for many years. It's been almost like 9 or 10 years now.
Wow.
I met Cory actually through his LinkedIn company. He runs a highly successful LinkedIn marketing company. And I actually ended up buying his program and his services, and he did office hours. And he did a whole teaching about like how to get a mentor. And so I thought, like, Cory seems like a pretty cool guy. If I ask him to be my mentor after he does a presentation about being and getting mentors, he has to say yes, right?
And Cory said,
Great
So I
timing.
called him up and I asked him to be my mentor, and there was just like this pause. Like, I think Cory was like, I did not expect someone to immediately.
I didn't. No.
Pick me up on that.
Talk about
There was
fast
just this,
action. It was
There
awesome.
was like a 15-second pause of like silence, and then Cory was like, yeah.
So good.
I was like, this guy's pretty smart. And also, he trapped me.
And then like an hour later, you give me a call back and you're like, hey, I'll be your mentor, but you also like want to work for me. And so that's how we started like working together and helping out Mojo. And then Jesse actually is a very similar story to Kim in many ways, where you were a barista at Starbucks and got to meet Cory, and Cory introduced this world of entrepreneurship. And now Jesse runs a very successful graphic design company.
and also helps Cory.
And helps Cory with his projects.
I have also worked for Cory. Everybody works
Everybody
for
works for Cory.
I'm so lucky. This is amazing.
So we are so excited to have you on Full Time to Travel Time, because honestly, a lot of our inspiration for living this lifestyle came from you too. And can you guys tell us, how long have you been traveling now full time?
Yeah, full time since 2017. It was December of 2017. That's when we first started our adventures on the road. And I remember up until then, we had only really been doing it, once or twice a year, mostly around New Year's. Like we would go on these amazing adventures for New Year's because we always wanted to be in a new place for New Year's and experience that. And it was a tradition of ours. And we've been doing that for well over 10 years. But I think there was this idea that we had that was like, hey, we do this every year. We do, whatever it is, it's about 2 weeks that we take off. We'll go somewhere for Christmas and New Year's. And like, what if we did this like longer? What would that look like? And so that's really when we started saying, maybe this is possible. And but then it all happened in 2017.
Absolutely. Our first country that we went to was Colombia and Argentina. And so what we did is we tried it for 2 months just to make sure we could survive in close quarters and not kill each other. And we successfully did it. And now we've been doing it for about 8 years now.
And just to test it, you still love each other, right?
Of course.
Tons and tons. Our relationship grows even deeper all the time. It's awesome.
That's so funny. That's like the number one question we get like all the time from random people is like, and you still like each other? You work together, you live together, you travel together. And I'm like, oh yeah. Like it works. Not everyone can do it, clearly, but
it was funny. Like 10 years ago, I was in my office and one of our clients, his name was Greg, he came in and we were talking about these travels that we were thinking about doing. He's like, I went on a vacation for 3 weeks with my wife. And I said, never again. 3 weeks is too much time. He's like, we almost got a divorce. And he said, I would only ever do 10 days or 2 weeks.
Max.
Right, max. I was like, oh, okay. It kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, what's going to happen?
Hey, we're doing it.
It's been amazing. I mean, and I get it because I think during COVID, a lot of people experience what it's like to be with their spouses a lot more full time, and it caused some problems for a lot of people. But I think something that we do is really unique. We do personal development all the time together, and so we're always kind of like, you know, refreshing the relationship. And so it really kind of helps us, you know, like really grow together in all kinds of different ways. So I think that's one of the secrets. If you are going to travel full time, right? Yeah, you're going to be spending a lot of time together, and you really want to like not only love each other, but you want to like each other at the end of the day. And so there's a little hack. Keep growing together and doing personal development, and that'll always allow you to put a place where you can, you know, not get to where you want to choke somebody. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Hello,
Are
Well,
you
and
dropping nuggets?
And that leads us into one of our first questions we wanted to ask you too. And I'd love to hear like an answer from both of you is, if you had like one tip you could give to like how do you travel as a couple successfully. I know Cory just jumped in with an awesome tip, so I'm gonna make you give us another one. But what is that like one tip that you have found, and Jesse, if you want to start, what is that one tip that you found that like really makes a difference when traveling with your significant other?
Yeah, so I think we've got a really good system with this. So when it comes to traveling, I'm like all logistics. I will find out how to get there, train, plane, automobile, and then Cory will book the place, research the place. So it's like we've got two different things that we're looking into. We know and trust that the other person can handle it and is totally capable of doing that. And so we have all of our trust in each other that allows us to focus on our two pieces and then makes it a very seamless travel transition.
It's pretty crazy because yeah, when we travel, like I barely know where we're going. Like you know,
Just
like,
show up. Like, okay, time to go.
Yeah, all I have to do is get packed, and then Jesse's like, "We got to leave at this time. We got to be at the airport by this time. This is where we're gonna go." And so like I'm taking like a mini vacation. I'm so lucky. I get to take a little mini vacation when we do travel because she's handling all of that logistics, you know, and basically. For me, that is so nice because I know that we're always going to get there on time. If you left it up to me, we'd be late for planes. We'd be, you know, we would miss
Jesse knows
trips.
that.
Yeah, it'd be
in
terrible.
in our whole 8 years of traveling, we've only missed one flight.
Wow.
Because we were
That's
late.
it?
Probably
because
my
of your
fault,
own doing,
I'm
you
guessing.
mean?
I don't even know. It was an early flight, so I mean,
Oh my gosh.
hard to wake
But
up.
I love
Yeah.
to hear this though, because like Jesse is Isaac and I'm Cory. Isaac is
Nice.
like, hey, get in the car, like let's drive. I have no idea where I'm driving majority of the time. It's just like, where the heck are we going? I'm like driving through this tiny alleyway. I was like, where are you taking us?
Because I
He's like,
know
"You'll see."
I know Kim and I, we travel a bit differently than you guys typically, where we road trip a lot more. And so I'm the one who plans out pretty much all of the travels and logistics and everything. Then Kim drives us.
Mhm.
And so from the outside looking in, you can be like, oh, Kim drives all the time. That's unfair.
But please don't give me a map. Like, no, please.
It works
I'm like,
out.
it's not unfair. It's unfair to make me navigate. That's what's unfair.
It's
Yeah,
a
well,
great balance.
I'm doing all the work beforehand, planning everything out, navigating them. While we're road tripping, I'm also navigating. So I leave space up to figure out like cool things to do while we're traveling, because there's things that like pop up on the map that you just won't see when you're not like close by. You talk to locals and they tell you about things and all this kind of stuff. So I'm like navigating as we're traveling too. So,
But I think the biggest thing about like traveling as a couple is knowing what each other's strengths and flaws are. And to your point, Jesse, like knowing who is responsible for what, because like how can you meet or exceed each other's expectations if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing? I thought you were planning this. I thought you were doing that. Like you guys know what each other does, just like we know what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, like when we get to an area, like Jesse will go to the store. She'll stake out, you know, the
the
First thing I do,
yeah,
grocery stores and coffee. Those are the first two things I look up.
Yeah, but it's cool because we get there and she's like, okay, tomorrow, you know, we'll have enough, you know, we'll go eat dinner somewhere, and then she'll be like in the morning, she'll go get provisions. She'll get provisions, right? So like what we need for breakfast and lunch, and if we're gonna make dinners, what that looks like, and you know, she'll just make sure that we're all set up, which is really truly amazing. And you need that. So I would say just pick some roles and just go with it and just kind of calibrate as you go. And over time you'll learn, like, you know, one of you may be better at finding the place or figuring out where to go. One of you may be better at kind of navigating and getting there. So you'll just find out what that looks like.
Yeah, also extra shout out to Jesse because on these trips for provisions, you are a powerhouse of a woman. I love how much you walk. This girl walks everywhere, like with bags and bags of groceries, sometimes multiple times a day. Like it's incredible and I love it. And it's your workout, it's like your zen time to like just walk and do your thing. But also like you're providing for both of you, which is fantastic. And I've eaten your food, I approve, you know?
Thank you. But it was so fun to walk with you too. I know you came out on our provision trips, so I
know,
really
we only
enjoyed
got
that.
whistled at once. That was pretty good.
Yeah, and you know, there's also if you're really lazy, there's like Easy Cart, which I think is like you could just order your groceries to your house if you're in kind of an area where you can do that. Now, a lot of times we travel in places where that's not always available, but it is nice to know that there are other options as well.
Yeah, Uber Eats is in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I think really what you've talked about, which I'm really glad you brought up, was, a lot of times people look at relationships as being equal and fair. But if everything is like equal and fair, it's not the most powerful a relationship can be,
or not
because
the most efficient.
we all have different strengths and weaknesses. So we, like Kim and I, we don't look at things as like everything needs to be equal. It's what are you best at? What am I best at? Let's combine these. And because we're doing that, we are able to elevate what we're able to produce to a whole nother level. And then I think when traveling, that's so important. I think that's why some couples are challenged, because they think everything needs to be like, I have to cook the same amount as my partner while we're traveling. I have to drive the same amount as my partner while I'm traveling. And that's never going to be like the most optimal while you're traveling, because you're not tapping into each other's strengths.
That's sure to cause mayhem, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. And I think that's a really, really good point, is like tap into each other's strengths. And as Cory said, you figure it out as you go along as well. Like, maybe what the roles that you decide in the beginning actually aren't 100% correct. And that's what happened with Kim and I when we launched our business, is they weren't the right roles for us when we launched our business. We had to figure that out and change our roles up as we went along.
And not just the wrong roles, but it was rocky in the beginning of like starting our own business. And I think that's a big reason why, because we were not in the right roles and the right seats as part of that too. Yeah. And one thing I just want to mention, because you kind of talked about the origin story of your Cory relationship and how we all met each other. But for those who are listening and watching right now too, I want to talk about our travel pact, because like, how have we not talked about that yet? We've known each other for years and years, but one thing that's cool about like our relationship that it sounds cheesy, but I cherish and I love so, so much, is the fact that we have this awesome travel pact that no matter where we are in the world, we will always find a way to live with each other for at least a month, once per year, which is so awesome. And we've been doing that, what guys, for like
It's been a while.
5 or 6 years now, I believe.
It's 5 years. Yeah. I mean, we did it 2019, I think, is the first year we did it, because I think the second year was 2020 during COVID.
I mean, we've stayed in Oregon, we've stayed in Phoenix, we've stayed in France, all over the place. Last year in 2023 was our first international travels together. So that's why, a big part of this episode too, like in episode 6, we talked about Europe. And in this episode, we're really going to pick your brains about all of your European travels, both with us and without us, because you're our best friends, but there are some things we just don't know about you.
Well, good. And I just want to thank you guys, because you really pioneered that whole thing about, making sure that we spent time together every year. And it's been about a month, or we'll break it up. We'll do a week here, a week there, right? Which is great. Like we did a week in like wine country in San Diego. Right. And that was really fun. And then we did another week in the south of France and one area of France. And then we did another week in another area of France. So it was like, it's really cool. So that, thanks for doing that. It's really been, because when you travel, if it can tend to get somewhat lonely, because, if you're in a place and you develop friendships there, right? I mean, you kind of miss out on those friendships. So it's really been nice to travel and hang out and travel with friends. Right. And I think that's one of the cool things about it is, it's such a uplifting thing. You get to share experiences, you get to laugh together. And now we've got stories that we tell all the time, like the French dude that says, really? And it's like, it's just really a nice. And so initially, I remember there was a year during COVID where, Jesse and I, it was pretty much just her and I. And lockdowns. We were stuck in New Zealand, which was amazing,
Yeah.
but still stuck in New Zealand. And we didn't really see friends, for almost that entire year. But and so it really kind of gets you crystal clear. It's like, it's just such a nice thing. So if you're out there and, start your traveling, do what you got to do, but ultimately, like, you'll meet other couples in your journeys, or, you'll bring some of your other friends into it, and the trips will just get better and better. So.
Yeah, and that year during 2020, we got like a beach mansion in Brookings, Oregon.
So nice.
Yeah.
It was normally $8,000 a month. We got it for 4,000. And just split it between us. And it was like, it was a very cool time. I mean, we had deers that would like walk through our yard every day, and it was awesome. But what we really want to jump into is Europe, because we just did a whole episode ourselves about tips on Americans traveling to Europe, and you two are the most traveled Americans throughout Europe that I know. So we'd love to learn more about your Europe adventures. So my first question is, I don't know if you have this on the top of your head, but do you know how many countries in Europe you've been to?
Yes. What's the final count?
So I was just looking this up. So it's 21 countries. There's about 33 of them, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So 21 countries that we've been to, which is great. I didn't even, it's funny because I didn't even think it was that many until I really looked at it. It was like, oh yeah, there's some, and then there's ones like, is that Europe? And this is just me being a dumb American, but because it's like, there's ones that are like Turkey, for instance, that's half European and also half Asian. So, Yeah. So,
and I know we got to knock off a new country for all of us together when we went to Monaco.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is the second smallest country in the world after the Vatican, and is surrounded by France.
Yeah.
So
and Jesse reminded me that, like, we went to Monaco, and I was like, and no offense to anybody if you're from Monaco, but it was just we spent like a day there, and so it's like, and that's probably about the least that we've ever spent anywhere. Typically, when we're traveling, we're spending at least 30 days in a country, right? Which is really great. It really gives you the ability to experience a country. And because like sometimes we'll be in, like what we did was really cool, because we stayed in many different cities, because there's a lot of cities to experience, right? And sometimes when you're when we were in Turkey, we stayed in Istanbul for the entire time, for the entire 30 days, because it's just so much to see. There's so much going on in Istanbul. And so it's so we've been to 21 at this point. We got 12 more, I believe, to get to, but it's been a lot of fun. And our first European travel trip was actually the time that we got engaged, and that was we got engaged in Spain, and we actually got married in Spain as well. But we got engaged in Barcelona, and that started a whole that was like, what, how many years ago? A decade ago? Was that
2015.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. That's amazing.
That is amazing. And we still have to go to Barcelona.
Yeah, for sure.
Ooh, let's do it.
I really want to go to a Barcelona football game. That would be like a whole spiritual experience, because I've been following Barcelona for like a decade now. So
I would probably just cry with
awesome.
happiness. There's so much emotion in those stadiums. Like,
so do you guys know like how much time collectively you've spent in Europe?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I would say probably at least 21 months if we're looking at 21 countries. So 20 months, at least, I would say.
About a year and a half or longer total spent in Europe, which is pretty amazing, again, as an American, who most Americans, I'm guessing, get to spend a month to 3 months total their whole life, in traveling through Europe. So,
well, there's usually about like the big five, right? Like if you're, and really it's the big three. So like if you end up going to Europe, you go to France, right? That's a big one. London, right? So the UK, and oftentimes people will go to Italy. So those are the big three that people typically go to. And then they'll kind of pick out the other ones. So they might go to Spain, they might go to Germany, Switzerland, right? Some of these ones. So so that's what we find normally. It's about 3 countries that people, if they've gone to Europe, they might have taken a European vacation where they hit 3 countries during the course of like 2 weeks, right? And that'll be their European vacation, and that might be the one and only time they might go. But still, people always have great stories about it. So
Yeah,
21.
especially you guys of all people.
You guys have some great
But
stories.
you
We should ask a question to get a great story out of them.
Well, no, I was gonna ask anyways, because you just mentioned a lot of people don't visit a lot of these countries. Like for both of you, what is like a lesser visited European country that you guys absolutely fell in love with?
Oh, I love this question. I love Georgia. I was so taken aback from it. Just the people are so hospitable. They're so nice, and the food's really great. But it was a very charming country.
Yeah, so Georgia, it's near Russia, right? And so it's got that kind of a lot of similar cuisine, I guess you would say. We love the cuisine there. So there's this really kind of cool, it's almost like a cheese pizza for adults, right? Called khachapuri.
So
And
delicious.
it's delicious. You know, whenever we see a Georgian restaurant now anywhere in the world, we typically go there. Like we
gotta
have to
have
have
it.
it.
Yeah.
But they have just such great cuisine. You know, there's like something called chirkela, which is it's like a dessert. So imagine somebody took a needle and poked a hole through hazelnuts, and then you know when you're getting the tree ready, right? And you kind of have the string, and you put popcorn. You know, you stick the needle through, you stick the string through that. So they do that through these hazelnuts. And then they dip it in kind of a grape juice kind of mixture with a little bit of gelatin, and they pull it out and they let it dry, and it becomes this kind of gummy substance, which is delicious.
Interesting.
And yeah, it's so good. So that's really great. There's something else called sinkala, which is like dumplings. And we went on a tour with a guy named George. Everybody there's named George.
George in Georgia?
George in Georgia.
George in Georgia.
Yeah. And so he took us to one of his favorite restaurants on the journey we were on, and we had dumplings. And so, you know, they bring these dumplings and they're steaming hot, and I get my fork and my knife and I'm about to cut into it. He's like, no. And so I was like, whoa. I was like, was my food poison? Like, what's going on? And so, but I was about to commit a Georgian sin, which was to use a knife in order to cut into this, because the way you're supposed to do it is poke a little bit of little hole in it, right, and suck the juices out, because it's like a soup dumpling. So there's got this like really rich, delicious broth in there, and a little bit of meat, depending on which ones you have. And that's the way you're supposed to do it. You cut the hole, you suck the juice out, and then you can eat it. So
Thank God he saved you.
I know, you would have
right?
had juice all over
Like
your
the
plate.
European version of crawfish.
Yeah, that's right. They would have, yeah, they would have taken me right to the border and kicked my ass out.
And it's so fascinating how these different cultures, these different countries have completely different ways of preparing food, and they're so good.
Yeah.
It's like you never could have conceived of this way that they created this food, and yet it's like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's in the khachapuri was so good. I remember we were in Czech Republic in Prague, and we went by a Georgian restaurant, and so and we had a couple of drinks. Actually, it was late night. We'd eaten at a Michelin star restaurant, and we spent like many hours just hanging out after they closed with the owner, just drinking wine, and he gave us some of his very fine, whiskey, and so we had a great time. And also, they were filming like a movie scene right out front. That's why he was there late, is because the movie actors needed to come in and use his restroom, and they kind of use this place as, setting up food and stuff. It's late at night, and the door is open for this Georgian restaurant, and so we bust in there, and I'm so glad they're open. They're closed, and then the chef comes out, and the waiter. They're the only two people there, and they're like,
after having this amazing
they're like, we're closed. I was like, what? I was like, well, could you make me one? I mean, we're here. I don't know. So,
they're that good.
Did they do it? Did they make you cut?
No.
We should leave.
You are so good. I remember sitting out on the curb of Los Favs here in Arizona, and they were completely closed. And you somehow convinced them to reopen up and cook burritos for all of us.
Because Cory was on the other side of the glass, like,
right? But they wouldn't let us into the store, so we're just sitting on the curb eating burritos.
She said we'll make it for you, but you eat outside.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
Yeah, but Georgia was like, it was one of those really interesting places. So many great stories. They have so many really modern, like almost space age buildings, and so many like old school kind of like, back in the day, Art Deco style buildings as well. So it's a really cool mix of a lot of different things, very walkable. And also when we were there, they were filming the Fast and the Furious. So it was really cool. So
Wow.
yeah,
that's
we
really cool.
actually, so right on the street outside our flat, that's what they say in Europe, I guess, instead of apartment or condo. And so they were filming it. So like they were driving up and down, and they had this big ass tank, and they had these other two like sports cars, and there's guns going off and stuff like that. And so we'd sometimes walk out there and see them kind of shooting the scene. And it was all very hush hush because nobody was supposed to know what was going on. It was very top secret, that sort of thing. But it was so cool just to be right there as they're doing it. And we were like looking for Vin Diesel and The Rock, and they weren't there because they just had they had their stunt doubles, I guess, there. But it was really cool. But it's such a cool little drive. And so anyway, that was one thing. And the other thing was I just remember Jesse and I were in the flat, and we come out of the flat, and there's a group of dogs, about 12 or 13 dogs, sitting around in a circle having a meeting. Like literally, that's what it looked like. and so and then we came out, and they were like, okay, like disband a little bit. But then they followed us. We were walking about a mile down to the square to go eat, and so they all like.
Doggy entourage?
Yeah, they
we had
were
an
our
entourage.
entourage. It was so incredible. In fact, they formed a circle around Jesse. I don't know if maybe they think she was like Snow White or something.
Yeah, that's right.
They were
Yeah.
chasing cars, and like people would walk by and they'd bark at them. Like they were protecting us.
There was two people that you could tell right away they did not like, and they just barked ferociously at them. And they formed a circle around us. And then like one of them, two would be on guard, like in the streets, like chasing cars that were getting too close. It was wild. So
that is
Very
crazy.
interesting.
Yeah.
We got
It
hot
was
dogs
very
for them to reward.
You go ahead. Isaac has a question this time.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And, again, it's like there's so many cool countries in Europe that us as Americans typically don't even think about visiting.
Or people don't talk about.
So, yes, thank you for sharing this hidden gem of Georgia. And go meet George in Georgia,
Georgia.
You'll find a lot of them.
I just have like this song in my head, George in Georgia.
Yeah, and they're seriously like every other dude that's there, his name is George. It's wild. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So one thing we want to ask you is, what is one of your most memorable purchases you've ever made in Europe?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I'll tell you the most memorable one for me, and so was in Switzerland. And Switzerland's kind of an interesting place, right? It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. They got the Swiss Alps, well known for chocolate. We can talk more about that. But I think one of my favorite purchases was not an actual thing, but it was you could buy cheese out of a vending machine there.
Oh yeah.
Right. So, so this was like such a cool thing because I've never seen cheese in a vending machine. And that's what they do there. Cause they've got all these milk cows and they're very much into that. And like Jesse and I were hiking down from the Swiss Alps, and which is another cool story. We were up there. It's kind of the highest and oldest, not the highest restaurant, but it's like a guest house called Asia. And so it's really cool. If you look at it, it's like literally built into the cliffside, got one of the best views in the entire planet, in a place called like Vasa Owen or something like that. And so we were hiking down. And so right near, we're getting near the town, there's kind of like a little shack. And in this little shack, they have milk. And so you could put quarters in, or euros, little coins, and then you could get a little cup, and you get a glass of milk. And this is as fresh as it gets because the cows are literally, you're surrounded by them. and it's really cool, but it's ice cold. And then they also have a little vending machine with a little bit of chocolate powder you can put in, make some chocolate milk. So I think for me, that was one of the best purchases we've ever had, and ever. And so I'll turn it over to Jesse, see what she thinks.
It's not often you go on a hike and you want a ice cold glass of milk afterwards, but in Switzerland,
and I'm probably looking at the cow that it was from right there.
Yeah, it's right there.
Just like eye contact. I was like, "Is this from you?" So,
thank you.
Exactly. I would say so. Cory and I have a tradition of collecting Christmas ornaments wherever we go. So from each country that we go to, we get a little trinket, something that we can hang on our Christmas tree one day when we have a place that we put up a Christmas tree. But we have quite a collection of different ones from all the countries that we've been to. So it's going to be cool to actually bring them out of their boxes and hang them up one day.
Yeah.
Awesome.
If you want us to have a signature tree, like a Cory Jesse tree while you guys are traveling, we'll have like a second tree with just your ornaments.
You guys spend Christmas with us every like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, hell yeah.
You mean
you don't
Kim's
have,
birthday?
You don't have cats, so there's
Right.
no. Yeah, you don't have cats, so there's no danger of them like getting in the tree and then causing it to topple. So
No destruction.
I
Yeah.
remember one of our first days hiking in Switzerland, Kim hears these bells.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are these bells? I was like, why are these bells going off all the time? And I'm like, they're cowbells, Kim. And she's like, no, cowbells aren't a real thing. You just
the movies.
you play them in SNL, you know. And I'm like, Kim, the legit cowbells. And we come over the hill and there's a bunch of cows there, all where their cowbells
They're
are.
huge bells
you
too, and
know.
it's not just the cows. I found out it's the goats, and everybody's got a bell.
But
like even the goats did.
Kim was like, her mind was blown that cowbells were actually bells that cows wore. Like she did not anticipate that. She just thought it was a musical instrument.
Exactly.
Oh, it's great. It's crazy because in Switzerland and Austria and probably other parts, I mean, they have this time period where they, it transitions from summer and fall to winter, and so they bring the cows down from the mountain, and so it's like this whole ordeal. Everybody dresses up, right? There's this whole
Flower
procession.
crowns on the cows.
Flower crowns, right?
yeah.
We missed it by a couple weeks, and if we had known, we would have like changed our plans around. We should all go back there for that festival because it's like a huge festival when they're bringing them down from the mountains.
I want
That
to
would
celebrate
be-
some cows.
That would be
Let's
an
do it.
awesome experience.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like we got stuck, I think for like an hour, maybe an hour and a half behind like a cow procession, and because they go on the roads, right? Like where else are they going to go? So the cows are in the roads, the entire family, and it was ages like 8 all the way up to 80,
Mhm.
The cows were 8 to 80.
the people, the cows were. I have no idea. I couldn't look at a cow and say, you're 39, right? So
A
like.
grandma cow.
So no, but it was like the people, the families that bring down the cows. They're all wearing lederhosen, right? They've got flower crowns on, and it was the young kid all the way up to grandpapa, and he was very spry and excited to be. It was a really cool time of year. So I definitely recommend that time.
Awesome. But wait,
right.
Kim, do you hear that sound?
Well,
Is it a cowbell?
what is it?
What is that
Do you
sound?
guys hear it?
I don't hear it.
I think it's the rapid fire question game, where the theme song is slow but the questions are fast.
That's great.
Nice.
I created the best theme song and tagline.
No, I woke up with it in my mind.
It's perfect. It's perfect. That was a download.
Of this game are very simple. Isaac, tell us about the rules.
All right, so the rules are simple. We're going to each ask each other a question about Europe. First, one of them are going to be about us traveling through Europe, and then the other one could be anything about Europe. And the key to this is that we're not looking for the best answer. We're looking for the first thing that pops into your brain.
Right.
Got
Awesome.
it. Okay,
So,
cool.
do you want to start off?
No. But I will anyways. Number one, for both of you, what was one of the most memorable Airbnbs you stayed at with us in Europe?
Probably
No,
the
thank you.
3-tier one.
The 3-tier in Marseille, in
Yeah,
France?
Marseille.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Cory?
I was gonna say Marseille. Like that was really, really cool. But I'd say the one for me was the one house in Montpellier, right? That
Montelimar,
yeah.
Montlemar, yeah. That
Oh, man.
that Napoleon stayed at as well. And I mean, I don't know if that's actually true or not, but I could
Bedroom
easily.
looks like it.
Yeah, it looked legit,
It
right?
was.
And so that's
Cool.
cool. I mean, that's a really nice piece of history.
Yeah, that was
And,
nice. And we sat outside and drank the rest of our rakia that we brought from Serbia. That was really nice.
Yeah, so for people that haven't been to Serbia, they love their rakia,
And it's
Yeah.
delicious.
and it's a spirit. High octane stuff we're talking, and so basically they drink it. I mean, when we were walking around Serbia, I'd see a couple and they would be having it for breakfast, legit breakfast, they would be having a little, a little glass of
It's so
Rakija.
strong.
Yeah, it's so strong. I was like, what? That's crazy.
What did our friend's grandpa say? That it like gives him good health to drink Rakija in the morning?
Supposedly it gives you good health.
I figured you'd say like it grows hair on your chest or something.
Yeah, I agree.
Same thing, right?
And I remember there, because we got there. Do you remember the host's name?
What, Marseille?
Yeah, Marseille.
Oh, Bruno.
Bruno, that's what I thought it was. So Bruno, Kim can speak solid French, so he gave
me the whole tour.
He gave him the whole tour, and Kim's translating, and he's about to leave, and he goes,
No. He walked all the way down the stairs, all down the 3 flights, and then as soon as he had his hand on the door, he was like, wait. No, hang on. And then he booked it and just like ran up the stairs, and I was like, what is happening? So I just followed him, and then he gets down on his knees and he opens this like drawer and
like secret compartment.
He pulls out the pastis and he's like, this is the good shit. Like he pointed and he explained, he said, you only drink a little, like, dude, this is not what you're used to. He's like, this is the good stuff.
And then he opened up a picture frame.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at Cory's eyes. Cory was like, what? And he opens up this picture frame and it's all like the shot glasses like hidden in this picture frame.
That was so cool.
And then Cory made us, he looked up how to drink this alcohol and drink
it properly.
And then we got to watch Bastille Day, which is French is essentially Independence Day. It's on July 14th, and we got to watch Bastille Day from a balcony at that Airbnb overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, and got to watch all the fireworks going up.
That was so magical.
It was a very, very cool experience.
And then we would go out there, and the food was amazing, the view was amazing. We were right next to Notre Dame, which I thought there was only one, in Paris, but apparently there's more than one.
And
that lit up every night too, the Notre Dame.
And we could see it so well from our Airbnb.
That was so cool. Should I ask my second question? Or
no, we should go to one of you two.
Jesse's got the questions. Jesse,
okay, ready. How do you properly say croissant?
Croissant.
I would say croissant. But I don't have a good French accent.
You gotta make the
croissant. Yeah. It took me so long just to figure out. It's like, what? How do you do that? Like, what are you saying? What? Yeah.
Funny question.
Yeah.
All right. So my question to you is, what was the best activity that we all did together while we were traveling throughout France? What's your favorite activity?
I gotta go with Fanny. And the sailing.
Fanny.
Fanny was the best. She was just such a sweetheart, and it was a really nice private sailing adventure that we went on, and we got to swim in that sea. I was just thinking about it this morning, how good that sea felt when we dove in and just like spent our afternoon there before we logged into work.
Oh
yeah, that's right. So we went out during the day, and I'd found like this person who had a private sailboat. It was a small sailboat. Cory got to like actually sail. Like Cory, you were like legitimately like running the sail, and like,
Jesse had a hold of I don't know the boat terms, the thing, the
rudder.
Well, obviously we're great students because she's actually teaching us how to sail.
Sorry, Fanny, you taught us better than this.
If you're in Marseille, you should look Fanny up. Do you remember
Captain Coco?
Captain Coco.
And she is on Google Maps, and so that's actually how I found her. And I think it was like $400 for the day, but again, we split it, between four people on a private sailboat. We got to go to a cove. And the coolest thing about the Mediterranean Sea to me is how floatable it is.
Because it's so salty,
it's
right?
so salty that I didn't realize like you just float so easily.
And it's very clear, so we could see all the fishies and everything, which was so cool. And Fanny gave us what was it, snorkeling gear or something too, so we could like see all the coral and the fishies beneath us. And extra bonus story to this one too, because if you guys remember, when we moved to a different Airbnb, Isaac and I, Fanny did give me props. She was like, hey, if you have questions or need like French advice, you can reach out to me. So we needed to reach out to her because we went to a new place and I could not figure out the appliances for the life of me. They looked completely different than all the other places. Google did not understand any of these photos or how to use like the oven. The symbols were different. So I called her and she was like, yeah, let's hop on a video call. And then the first thing she said when we got on the call was, Yeah, French appliances are stupid.
I don't know if they're all stupid, but they are different. I mean, the ovens are completely different.
Yeah,
What are
the
they called?
stovetop. Jesse taught us that actually.
Yeah.
The conduction ovens or
Induction or conduction?
something like that.
Maybe conduction ovens. And I actually think they're far more efficient, and they actually reduce fire hazards significantly. I think it's actually a superior technology, but when you're not used to it, so we're trying to get it started. And for some of these stovetops, you have to use a specific pan, or else the stovetop won't even turn on. So we're trying to get this, and Jesse's like, no, you have to use this pan, and it comes with this attachable handle. I mean, it was just so foreign to us.
Yeah, you have like pans and pots with no handles. It just like clips on and clips on and clips on. It's pretty cool, actually.
And then I remember we had posted some pictures of us out on, Fanny's sailboat. I remember my mom asking me like later on, she's like, was Cory taking like a business call while you guys were out sailing in the background? You're in the back talking, and I'm like, yeah, that's Cory, man. He's gonna hustle. Doesn't matter if we're out in a sailboat in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. He's getting on that networking call.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to my good friend Damien, and that was I think we were talking about he was gonna put me on his podcast or something, and he was gonna promote something that I was doing. But I remember that call. Like there's not often you take a call on a sailboat in the south of France. So.
That was hilarious. So Cory, what about you? What was your most memorable?
So we were in Nice, and one of the things that Jesse and I like to do, because we work during the week. We're not a lot of people think that we're just on a perpetual vacation, which is cool, but it's for us, like what's really fun is running businesses while we're traveling, right? And so one of the things we like to do on the weekends, if we're in a place that's kind of beachy, is we'll go to beach clubs and we will just chill, right? And so like when we were in the south of France, we did this in Cannes. We were in Nice, and so we were talking to Kim and Isaac, and they'd never been to a beach club before. And so we're like, what? so we're like, okay, let's go find one. And so it's a little bit different in Nice because, because it's so windy there, they actually put down a lot of rocks and gravel, because instead of like sand, it just blows everywhere and gets dusty and all that stuff. So it got kind of like rocky beaches.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were searching for a good beach club. And so we found one at a really old hotel called Le Negresco. And this hotel, and a lot of famous people have stayed there. And I was just kind of curious. I was like, let's go inside and see what it's like. And we go inside, and it's like just marble everywhere. Like the ceilings are like, I don't even know how tall they are. Like they're 30, 40 feet, vaulted ceilings. And it's just so crazy. Just so much opulence in there. And they didn't want to actually let us in there unless you're a guest. And so I was like, we're just going to take a look around. And so
they were like, no, get out, please.
Well, no, we got some ways, and Cory is phenomenal at getting into places that we're not supposed to be. He's really good at it. And so
they were like, are you staying here? And Cory was like,
well, he's like, we have tickets for the beach club. Like, we're just walking in to see. So we made it a couple of rooms in. We made it past the lobby, which you're not supposed to. Like, they have guards standing there. We made it.
We were followed.
And then like a concierge person saw us like wandering around and was like, you can't be here.
Well, yeah, because we're like in beach gear, and I don't know what you're supposed to wear in a very posh hotel. But the door guy was wearing like stockings, and like he was suited up and like a really not so like we didn't look like that, but anyway, I think it was more or less because we were kind of looking around in wonder, and they're like, oh, they can't belong if they're, so, but we went across the street, and we hung out at this beach club, and it was just such a nice day. You drink wine or champagne, and we had like lobster roll, which is the best lobster roll that I've ever had. And I'm not a huge fan of, I'd say, the shellfish myself, but I thought it was so delicious. And so that was one of my favorite things, because we were just chilling and hanging out and having a good time and having conversations. So for me, that was really a lovely time.
And the waiter was wonderful too. Like he was
cool.
He was fun. Like it was a really good time.
So I actually put the picture of the beach club that we went to behind us. That's
nice.
it.
Nice.
And
Ours
um,
had a whole,
Beautiful.
cabana
that was
covering,
like
though.
our first real like quote unquote beach club, really. So that
Yeah.
was a very cool experience to go with you guys, and we had a great time at the beach club with you guys.
so
Yeah, it was a
wonderful.
very nice, relaxing day for sure. Because I
Definitely.
know Kim and I, like, we are usually like go go go, like we're adventuring and whatnot. So it's a cool change of pace for us to like go and just relax and like
Not
just
move
have
for
a great
hours.
time. Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
great.
no, we like to see stuff, but yeah, when we want to, there's like a day where we just want to chill,
Yeah.
you know, and do almost nothing, and so that's typically what we like to do. Other than that, we like to go lay in a park and lay in a park and look at the clouds or read a book or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Awesome.
Very
Okay,
chill.
you guys are up with the question.
All right, where do you want to go next in Europe? What's your destination?
Oh, in Europe. Ooh, without thinking, my first answer is Greece. There's a lot to do in Greece, and there's a lot around Greece. So just because we go to Greece doesn't mean we're not going to go to the surrounding places, because we definitely have to go to Croatia too. I know you guys have been there, and that's like my whole ancestry and like origin of a lot of my family on my mom's side. So it would be really cool, just the buildings, the water, more sea.
Mhm.
I would love that. What about you?
Yeah, the first thing that popped into my head was Spain, because we just haven't been there. I know that's one of the like bigger countries. We've been told that Spain is beautiful, but actually much more affordable than many of the other European countries. Love to go to Barcelona, and I've been a big Barcelona FC fan for a long time. So like that's one of my goals. I always wanted to go when Messi was playing, but now he's here in America, so that's awesome. But I still am a big Barcelona fan, so I'd love to go to the Camp Nou and just experience that stadium, because I really think it's going to be an experience that like I've never had before.
And what's the building in Spain that has all the rainbow colors through the mosaics? It's
Oh,
called,
the Gaudi. The Gaudi.
Sagrada Familia, is that the one?
Yeah, Familia, that's the one.
Isn't that still being built? Like, hasn't he been building that for a while? Or
I
think
think
they did a different
no,
one.
I think it's complete. I mean, I from what I remember, yeah, they built it a while. Gaudi is just this famous architect, really bright, brilliant, eccentric as well. He's built some fantastic structures, and that is the most crazy, insane, beautiful cathedral that we've ever been to. And it's crazy how the lights come in and how it's shaped. It's got some different aspects about nature. It kind of looks like beehive in some areas. The interesting thing is that he did not build it. There's a mountain that's right next. I can't remember what the name of the mountain is, but he didn't want to build it as tall as the mountain because he didn't want to supersede the height of what God had created in nature, right? And so it's a very tall structure, but it's less than the elevation of the mountain. But
So
fantastic
thoughtful.
structure, yeah.
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
Love
Gaudi, and interestingly enough, Gaudi, I remember I was listening to the history, and he got run over, before they could finish it, essentially, because they've been building that thing for a long time. I think like 100 years. I think it's been over 100 years. And correction, I don't think they finished it. I think there's still more work to be done. He got ran over, and it took them a while to realize he was dead, or that was him, because he looked like a homeless person. That's kind of how he dressed. But yeah, but if you do go to Barcelona, you got to check out the Sagrada
All the
Familia.
Gaudi.
All the Gaudi
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I know we could talk for hours, but I know we're coming kind of close up to the hour mark, and that's typically where we like to keep the podcast. But we do have an important question for you. Where is the most romantic vacation that you guys have gone to?
Oh, that's a good one. We've so our first trip that we ever took together was to Belize, and I would say, I don't know if this is the most romantic, but this is the first romantic one that we really took, because it was a week in Belize, and I used a Groupon to get to buy it,
Going back to that bad habit, but not so bad habit.
Groupon to like buy the plane, or just buy like the place?
It was like, it was so cheap. It was, I can't even tell you, it was like, I don't know, like $1,000 for like 6 days. It was like $500 per person, and for the place, and it didn't cover the plane or anything, but I was like, man, that's great. And it was a resort. It looked fabulous, and so we took that. We did that trip down there, and that was our first international trip that we took together. And I'll always remember it because so many cool things happened. Like we went to this crystal cave where, you know, you ride into the jungle for an hour in a truck, then you walk for an hour, and then you go to a cave entrance, and then you walk for an hour in the cave, which is really in the dark most of the time, all the time. And you get to this giant cavernous room, and it looks like it snowed in there. It's just all white crystals.
Wow.
And it was so cool to experience that. And one unique fact that I thought was interesting is there's our tour guide that took us out there. There's mosquitoes everywhere, so you gotta put mosquitoes even on your shirt, because they will pierce your shirt and get to you. But this guy, he got bit all the time, but he never got mosquito bites. Like, it was the craziest thing. And so I was like, you know, I don't know what it is. I got to study these people, right? These Belizeans, because for some reason they don't get, you know, that. And I think that's one of the most fantastic things. But anyway, back to the romantic part.
Back to the romantic part.
You know,
Really selling this, Cory.
but yeah, he was just hanging out on the beach and drinking. You know, they've got these special, I can't remember the name of the drink, but that was, for me, one of the most special times. And it was our first adventure, and you never really forget your first.
Oh yeah.
And do you remember the name of that cave that you went to?
I think they really just call it Crystal Cave.
I think that's what I'm thinking too.
Okay. And what about you, Jesse?
Yeah, do you have the same answer?
I have a different answer. It's a little closer to home. I would say after we left you in Brookings, we took the drive up the Oregon coast to Seattle, and that was just spectacular. First of all, I've never seen a starfish before until we went to Brookings, and that was really cool. And so it was really nice, just like driving up the coast, taking in all of the beauty, and stopping at all these little towns along the way. I just was just in awe of the beauty in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part of Oregon, I actually tell people it almost looks like it's like European, the coastal line. It doesn't really look American a lot of the time.
And especially, I think that's called the Samuel H. Boardman Scenic Corridor, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just like jaw-dropping, otherworldly, like does not look like America. Like with all the arches and the greenery growing on all the mountains that are just sitting in the middle of the ocean, and you're driving alongside it, like, oh yeah, I gotta take a breath. Like it's seriously awesome. So it's interesting to hear you say that's like one of the most romantic things too, you and a starfish.
Because we had been to Brookings beforehand, and we wanted to go back, and that's when we invited you guys to spend a month with us in Brookings, because like we had driven through that area and we were so blown away by it. We're like, we got to go back and spend a month there so we can go hit up like all these beaches.
Best place for starfish, you remember the name?
It's called Harris Beach State Park.
And they had all the little tide pools too. Well, obviously,
is that the place with the little keyhole, like the
actual keyhole? Yeah.
And apparently the sun will shine through that keyhole a couple times a year and create this incredible sunset. And we were there, just happened to be there one of those very few times that the sun was like lined up perfectly to shoot through the keyhole.
I know. We still have insane photos of that. I didn't know it happened so infrequently too. Yeah. That's what I love about like whenever we travel together. It's like divine timing kind of things just happen. Or what Isaac and I find even when we just travel together is like things just operate really smoothly when we travel. Or if it feels a little clunky, like at our home base, we're like, oh, we should just go travel. Things will run smoother, you know?
Yeah, it's so true. And I think there's a certain aspect of that, you know, maybe karma, but also just being willing to be flexible, right? Because like, you know, we, at this point, we've stayed in, I mean, we're probably at one of Airbnb's top customers. And I'll have some, like we were in Alaska, and there's a friend of ours, he has an Airbnb, and he was like, what can I do to make this, you know, a better Airbnb? And I was like, you know, what's interesting is that we don't look at it as like, what can you do for us? Because, you know, we've stayed at so many different Airbnbs, you know, all the way from igloos in Finland, all the way to like an Airstream that we stayed in Seattle, and like caves almost, you know, like just different things. And so at the end of the day, we're very flexible. So it's like not what you can provide us. In fact, we operate with like, if you gave us nothing or the bare necessities, like we're going to do all right. Right. Like we bring our own pan, and our ceramic pan. We love it. They're green pans. It's because, you know, you travel to some of these places and they don't have really great kitchenware sometimes. And so we like to bring our own. if it makes us feel a lot healthier, makes us feel like we're not, maybe poisoning ourselves with whatever.
Can people buy this pan off like Amazon or?
Yeah, I mean, just look up Google green pan, and
we're gonna put it on this blog. Cory will send us the exact pan because I want to know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's great. Like we travel with that. Jesse travels with an espresso machine. Like,
mistake. You're still doing it.
Still got it. You just can't use it in other countries, but if it's US plug outlet, you can do it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I think it's really about being flexible about what you don't have and just being willing to either bring your own or do without and figure it out. That sort of thing.
And to add on to what Cory just said, because you mentioned something that is going to be so valuable if you're traveling from country to country for an extended period of time, I want everyone to go check out our website. It's fulltime2traveltime.com. And we have made for you the ultimate European packing checklist. And it's going to include some things from Cory and Jesse. It's going to include some stuff from us. Last episode, we talked about all the things that we did wrong, like the mistakes of the wrong luggage, so yeah, check that out. That's going to be really exciting. And I'm curious to hear even more about what should you have in there besides an espresso maker and and a green pan.
Yeah, sounds good. No, it's been awesome. I mean, we are truly blessed, right? And so, but I think part of it is like it's good to talk about these things because I think it's so possible for a lot of people, right? And you don't have to, like, we run businesses, all of us, do, and you don't even need to do that. Like you literally, like, one of the best ways to travel is just have a full-time job that is remote or virtual, right? And that you can actually do because starting a business is actually very difficult, and it takes many years to get you, and so traveling and trying to make income and enjoying yourself while starting a business, that can be a little tricky. So one of the best ways to travel is just find a high-paying enough job that allows you to do that. And like Jesse's in our motto is go anywhere, do anything, and it's really nice. And it helps because we're both we're a couple and we both produce income. I mean, my friend Matt said, "Hey, you guys are a couple of dinks," and I was like, "What did you call me?" and he's like, "Oh, dual income, no kids." I was like, "Oh yeah." So
ding ding.
Yeah. So, and I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." So I think that's so it gets exceptionally easy if you're traveling with two people as a couple. From a kind of like just like you can afford more things, right? Either way, I mean, it's really just so possible for folks, and don't let the fact that you don't have a business or you don't just take a stab and do it for a month, maybe. You don't have to do it for, like, we've been doing it full time for almost 8 years. You don't have to do that. Like, do it for 2 weeks even and see how you like it. And just, you could even make it like, where you do it for a couple months out of the year. You don't have to do it full time like we do.
Yeah. Well, I know how Kim and I started is we started with, like, once a month we'd go on a 3-day trip. Then it became a 5-day trip. Then it became a week trip. And we had done that for like 7 or 8 months before we actually packed our stuff and started traveling full time. And I thought that was a great experience to spend like a week once a month going somewhere, because it really like built our traveling muscles, which you kind of need to build up. There's things you need to figure out as you go along.
And their trust with each other too.
Yeah.
So I think that's a kind of a good way to get started. And I know I'm in the process of making a how to travel locally course, because that's one thing that I just didn't realize until I was, in my late 20s, is like, no matter where you are in the world, there's something amazing 2 hours away from you. Right. Within 2 hour drive, there's something phenomenal. You just don't know what it's going to be until you explore it. And I know when we were in France in Montélimar, we had gone to see one of our favorite French bands, Deluxe. How do they pronounce it in French?
Deluxe.
And we were going to go to a castle, and then they canceled the concert like last minute because the concert venue hadn't sold enough tickets. And like, I was pretty devastated. We were really excited to see them. Like, Cory and Jesse was so good at adapting and figuring out, okay, what do we do instead? And it was like a Sunday. There weren't any cabs out. You somehow found us a cab, and we went and we got to go have a picnic on the lavender fields of France.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it was an amazing experience. It was such a cool experience. And that's like you're talking about being flexible and exploring. And like that was like 40 minutes away from where we were staying. But if we hadn't gone out there, we wouldn't even known that there were like these legendary lavender farms, you know, there that
seriously like so amazing.
Yeah, it was such a
I
cool
remember
experience.
like you, Isaac, and Cory both took a nap in the lavender fields, and Jesse and I were like, oh my god, they're so cute.
They're very cute.
Just had like this giant picnic
Yeah.
basket of a meal that they provided, like with the cheeses and the breads, and Jesse and I got like amazing fresh lavender stuff. I know I got shampoo. What did you get, Jesse?
I got the essential oil, and it lasted me for a really long time. I just
Yeah, we still have ours
Oh,
actually.
you got bar soap too, didn't you? It had like chunks of lavender.
Oh
cooked
yeah, it
into
was really
One
nice
of us
because it
got
was like
that.
exfoliating. It was nice.
Yeah. Oh gosh. it was
Yeah,
really
Jesse like uses lavender every single night. It helps
so
her.
the best.
Yeah. It's really
We-
great essential oil for going to sleep or relaxing you, right? So
Or healing your cuts. It's
Or
like
heal-
it has so many benefits.
We just bought like a bag of dried lavender and like just like kept it with us
I just
all
kept-
throughout Europe, and just
That's
like would put it
awesome.
in any new house that we Airbnb we went to.
I kept it in my suitcase, so all
Yeah.
my clothes smelled like fresh lavender.
Oh, that's so nice.
I remember like we were, gosh, where were we? We were somewhere in Europe, and so there was a lavender plant, and that we walked by, and so was it there? It might have been New Zealand actually,
was
and
in
so I
New
walked
Zealand.
by, and I just kind of like grabbed a little piece of the lavender off, and I kind of rubbed it in my hands, and then Jessie like sniffed it, and I think she snorted it up her nose, like she
That was a little
sniffed the
too
same-
powerful.
you know? So,
I was like, where did it go?
we're like, "Where'd it go?"
Inside
So you just
me.
have a little piece of lavender just stuck in there. You
Lodged in the
constantly-
sinus.
Right up there.
Yeah.
Can't get that out.
Hilarious.
I really loved it.
Well,
awesome.
well, guys, we want to thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
You guys
thank
are two of
you.
the coolest people we know, some of the most traveled people. You really, inspired us a lot in traveling and just, going with the flow and just figuring things out when they don't always go correctly, which is always going to happen when you travel.
For sure.
So first of all, just huge thanks for being on this podcast, and we're definitely going to have you on again. Before we sign off, I'd love to hear what you guys are working on that you're passionate about right now. If you want to share your projects and give a shout out to whatever you're working on, take it away.
Yeah, so we've been working on this project together called Storyly, and we created an AI that interviews folks and tells their story. And so it's a really cool kind of give back project. You can check it out at storly.ai. Originally, we put it together because we really wanted people to write their stories and pass them on to their kids or grandkids. And it started off as like stories would live forever. And so that's why we initially did it. And and initially the idea came because my dad was a really great writer, and he wanted to retire and write detective novels. And so he worked all his life to get to that point. And then at the age of 50, he got plasma cell myeloma, which is it's a very aggressive cancer, and it gets in the bone marrow. And so he, after doing chemotherapy and having surgeries, his body gave out on him after 2 years. So I always kind of wondered what kind of stories he would have left behind, or he would have written and left behind. And so that was the initial, I guess, seed of where the idea came from. And so we put it out there. Now we're working with nonprofits. So if you are a nonprofit or a nonprofit, we're working with nonprofits to be able to help them collect the stories of the people they serve. And it's a really cool project. We've collected thousands of stories, and we're helping nonprofits really turn those stories into media pieces, so that way they can share the experience of what they've created. So that's one of the things, really cool things that we're working on. And then Jesse, over to you.
Oh, I was going to say the same thing. I feel very fortunate about this time that we get to spend together while traveling, but then also this time that we get to spend together while creating a business. So we both have 2 separate businesses that we're working on. And then now the second one is something that we get to work on together. So, and I just want to say thank you to you 2 as well. So I just feel fortunate that we're friends with you and that we get to spend time with you and live our lives in such fun ways.
Definitely. And we
Awesome.
didn't even get to tell the snail story today.
I-
We're going to save that. That's a whole episode.
That's a whole
It really
episode for
is.
one
We
story.
could talk about snails.
Who killed the snail? Tune in for another episode. Shoot. All
I
right.
can't wait.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Cory and Jesse, for being on. Definitely check out Storyly. I know I get to be a part of just advising here and there with Storyly, and I got to come on and listen to some of these non-for-profits and their stories, and wow, are they inspiring. But, you know, some of them could tell a story and some of them just didn't really know how to tell a story at all. So what Storyly is doing is really helping those people because they're doing amazing work. So, awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. And thanks for listening. And until next time, adventure.
Yeah. It's time to say it. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Ready.
Thank you for joining us on
Full time to
travel
time.
We'll get it.
We'll get it.
That was the first time.
I nailed it. I don't know what you think.
Amazing.